Let's connect it up. What's going on? We got a little conversation. Game of Thrones, Season 8, Walking Dead, Season 10. Live stream for Cinco de Mayo. I really should probably wear a hat. I don't really have anything like that, but all right. We can connect here. All right, what's going on, my PT peeps and my Walking Dead family and my Game of Thrones fans and everybody checking out the channel for the live stream today. Sorry, I got to put the light on for, there's some storms that are in town right now, and they're probably going through Georgia and everything as well. And it's going to be some bad storms going through, and I know they're filming to start The Walking Dead Season 10 on Monday. So, I guess general spoiler warning for The Walking Dead comic stuff, Walking Dead show, Game of Thrones. Hopefully it's not lagging too bad on here. Probably is because of the storm here where internets are getting really kind of messed up, but hopefully the storm will pass and it won't mess up too much. So, Ricky Ellis, what are your thoughts on the end of The Night King? So, definitely spoiler warning for Game of Thrones stuff if you haven't really seen it on there too, so I don't want to ruin anything for you, but we're going to talk about some Game of Thrones just like Ricky Ellis. My thoughts of last week's episode of Game of Thrones was that it was very good. Did it live up to the hype? Well, I don't know because it had a lot of hype for it. There was a lot of hype coming toward this episode. So it was one of those things there. It's kind of tough to live up to the hype because it was so big, so much, so craziness. And it was a crazy weekend because of Endgame, which was awesome. But ultimately, the Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3 last week, The Night King and Arya and everything was pretty great. And I just don't know where the story goes from here. We'll have to see because there's 3 episodes left. And it kind of felt like a season finale, series finale type of thing that happened. So I thought it was pretty cool. I'm not against Arya doing her big heroic stuff, but some people thought it should have been differently. I thought it was pretty cool. So Art Blade, what do you think The Walking Dead is going to change about the Whisper of War? Well, good question. So for those who don't know, the Whisper of War is a big thing from the comics that's coming up. It was after All Out War, after the introduction of the Whispers, after, some storyline here or there, the groups come together to go against the Whispers. And that means we're going to get a lot of walkers, some big stuff with Alpha and Beta, and some tactics to go against Alexandria and Hilltop. So that's going to be pretty interesting because I think that they're going to have to change some things, obviously, because Jesus isn't there, Rick's not there, Maggie may or come not go there. She might be involved. But I think that it's going to be somewhat of a similar storyline. I think we'll have the idea with the water tower, and I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be different because of the Michonne aspect. Michonne is going to be gone as of Season 10. So will she make the war and then leave? Will she survive? Will she save people? Will she leave in the middle of it, during it, after it? We just don't know, but Michonne will be a factor there too. The radio, the kingdom not really being around doesn't really matter too much because most of the battle will probably be at Hilltop and Alexandria. So we'll see what happens there too. I think that it's one of those things that I can't wait to find out. And I think that it needs to be awesome because the continuing on, like Season 9 was, can be good for the series to continue on. So I don't know if you've been up on our videos and what our channel has been saying. And, a lot of articles have been coming out now because there's going to be filming starting on Monday, May 6th, tomorrow. Hopefully, because I don't know if the weather pattern is going to be good for it or not. Because, again, like I said, there's a lot of rain coming in the southeast into the northeast. I'm not sure if it's going to be there tomorrow, but I'm excited to find out more. And there's some people there already coming down. They're excited. Filming season, filming season could be great, and hopefully is great. So I'm hoping that Season 10 will lead off with a bang and be good for the whole season. There were some aspects of Season 9 that were better than others, but ultimately I thought it was a good season as a whole, and hopefully Season 10 continues on like that too. So they're going to start filming tomorrow, and we'll see a lot of more celebrities rolling in. I know they have been seen already. Norman Reedus has been around town. Kaylee Fleming's been around town. Beta, Ryan Hurst has been around town, and a lot more people there too. I think this week's episode of The Kids Can Wait or Kids Can't Wait or whatever the show is with Michael Cutlitz, I believe Eugene, I'm blanking on his name, Josh McDermott will be on that episode, which would be pretty cool. So Kawaii Cutie, are you going to make a video about filming images of season 10? Of course, when we get them, we'll be making videos throughout filming season. That is May to November, and we'll be having those for sure. I'm excited to talk about it. Once I get information, I will have it for you as well, for sure. So, Cal Skywalker 14. The Night King has to be alive or inside brand. We need the spiral symbols explained. We do need a little more explanation. I think that we do need to have some more explanation of what we kind of saw and what's there too. Well, the showrunners were on Jimmy Kimmel, and they talked a little bit about the final season of Game of Thrones, and they didn't talk about too much. They didn't give anything away, but they could be that we do see the Night King and or White Walkers still around somehow. So we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully it's, totally not done. Janet, Q&A, Brian, do you think Beta will kill Ezekiel? I think Ezekiel will be killed. I just wonder how it will play out. I don't know if Beta is the one, but I do feel, like I said, like you said there too, you think that Ezekiel will be killed. I feel like Ezekiel gets killed probably early on in the season. Don't know if he survives the half a season, whole season. I want to know what their plan is for Ezekiel. I think Ezekiel is a character that outlived his comic death, but for how long? Kind of like Glenn did, only for a couple minutes. He wasn't picked in the lineup, but he kind of was picked in the lineup. I think if something happens with Ezekiel too, I think it's got to happen in season 10, because the writers are decent. They're not the best with changing things. They've done things in a good light that's obvious, like a comic relief guy of Jerry, a second lieutenant with Negan, somebody here and there, and sometimes the actors are just being themselves, so they haven't had to act that hard, which is sometimes the best parts. The best actors are the people who can be themselves and get away with it, and be Jerry. Cooper Andrews is like Jerry, and it's one of those things where he's not really acting. He's just being himself, and he's probably really happy to be there, which a lot of us would be as well, too. So, Kawaii Cutie, Q&A for the comics. So let's talk about comic stuff. I don't want to ruin it for people, because comic issue 191 came out Wednesday, May 1st. And hopefully you've read it. Hopefully you're up with the date on it. But I'm going to give you a chance to, excuse yourself, mute it, or whatever. But the way issue 191 ended, it does not look good for a certain character. Again, I'll give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rick got shot by Sebastian Milton at the end of the issue. And it's like, what? And you're like, okay, maybe Sebastian got shot when he was pointing the gun at Rick and someone came in and saved him. But then, nope, you see a gunshot wound in his chest, and then you see blood splatter on the wall, and then he leans forward and there's blood on his back and stuff. So it's not a good spot for anything. It's a comic book. It's not real life. It's not a show. It's not this. But ultimately, it does not look good for Rick. And I think Rick's on the way out. And it's just hard to believe that little twerp, Sebastian Milton, is going to be the one that takes out the iconic Rick Grimes. And we'll remember that, too. We'll remember what happened with, that issue. And if it's the way he goes out, which is kind of crazy. So, what's up, Darlene? Sonoy in the house. Podrick Fitton. Have you met Andrew Lincoln? I have not met Andrew Lincoln because he is the tough guy to meet. He's not the tough guy. He's the white whale of Walking Dead cast. Norman Reedus is everywhere. He goes to a lot of conventions. Michael Cutlitz, Eugene, like a lot of people, a lot of actors are going, Aaron, a lot of people, more and more people. Denai Guerrero is a little tough. She doesn't do everything. Andrew Lincoln's one of those people who did not do everything. He's been to London a couple times. He was in Atlanta a couple times. But Andrew Lincoln is really difficult to meet. If you ever get the chance to meet him in Sonoy or in London in a cafe or something, wherever you get a chance to meet him, it's crazy. It's one of those things that you're like, man, you should really be thankful because it's really difficult to meet Andrew Lincoln. So Darlene is in Sonoy right now. She thinks they saw Norman's Camaro an hour ago. And probably because he's got a he's got a Camaro that stands out. Like Jeffrey Dean Morgan has a Mustang that stands out, And when you kind of see certain cars around there in Sonoy and they're back around town, the cast, you can kind of, it's pretty cool. So, Art Blade, is Cassidy McClincy hard to meet, Lydia? I think she's doing more and more conventions now too, which is cool. So she's not the hardest. I think she's doing more stuff. So I think that's one of those things where you can get a chance to meet her. I know she's been at a couple of different things. I know older Henry has been there too. And Kaylee Fleming, who plays Judith on there, is doing more conventions. And I'm excited for you guys to meet her because she is the sweetest, most adorable, awesome, friendly, just polite actor I've ever met in my life, who is, I don't know, she's 10, was she 11? I think she just turned 11 or 12. I met her, earlier this year before her birthday, and she was so sweet. She was the nicest girl, and she's one of those actors that I'll never forget meeting, and I got a great picture with her, my wife and I. It's pretty awesome. It's one of those things. But tonight is Game of Thrones, episode 804. And Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, on the show, says that it's his favorite episode. So why is it his favorite episode? We don't know because we have to see. But it's one of those things that I'm excited to see the aftermath of the battle. Where does it go with Dany? Where does it go with the dragons? Cersei, King's Landing, the future battle's got to be at King's Landing. And they're saying that episode 805 is going to be the biggest battle, bigger than the Battle of Winterfell, is what Emilia Clarke, who plays Daenerys on the show. So it's one of those things you're like, all right, we'll see. Don't oversell it. Don't oversell it again because it's one of those crazy things that it's like, all right, don't build it up too much because you can't live up to the hype too much on there too. So Cal Skywalker, JDM is my most anticipated Walking Dead meetup. I met Jeffrey Dean Morgan and he's awesome. He's just a regular cool dude that is like happy to be there too. Like Kari Payton, who plays Ezekiel, Ross Marquand, who plays Aaron, Cooper Andrews, who plays Jerry, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. They're just regular dudes like being awesome. Jesus, Tom Payne, regular cool guy, man. I haven't been disappointed with any of the people I've met so far, and I think you should meet all those people that I've met. I haven't met everybody, but everyone that I have met have been great. Been very exciting. So, Xmas Girl 304 Q&A. Do you think Rick being shot in the comics foreshadows how the Rick's trilogy will end? I don't know if it's going to be that kind of way. I think that something could happen that way in the story for sure. I think it happens that way too. I think Rick dies off at some point. He's not going to be on the show because Andrew Lincoln's never coming back to the show is the word, but he could get shot. He could die off. I think that's a way that and I think they're trying to pull like a Game of Thrones thing. I don't want to give it away, but you know what I'm talking about. With Game of Thrones, you're like, yeah, I like this guy. And then you're like, what? Huh? Like, we all like Rick, right? I mean, there's no way you don't like Rick. You might not like Negan. You might not like certain characters, but we all have to like Rick somewhat. He might not be your favorite character, but Rick's pretty great, right? So Rick being Rick is awesome. But I think that it's not going to be a happy ending for Rick, too. I think Rick finally reunites with his family again at some point, and then something happens. Because the kind of Rick story is that he's been looking for his family at the beginning, and then he found, Lori and Carl, and then he was trying to look for his family and keep his family safe, and then try to do this. And the way he went out on the show, he was still trying to find his family. So he's back to that, back to square one. He's got to find his family again, right? And where has he been for the 6 years is the $1 million question. So I can't wait to see what happens with it for sure. So let's see what we got. Some other good questions. But thank you guys for joining me today, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. If you do anything today, be safe. Don't get crazy with it. Trying to be, safe. Rather safe than sorry for sure. Hopefully you guys watched the Kentucky Derby yesterday and the craziness what happened with the horse won but didn't win and disqualification and stuff. It was just nuts. So, Janet Person is a good question here for everybody. Maybe one of the Whisperers likes Ezekiel's dreadlocks and makes a wig. Carol sees this and this is how she finds out he was killed. What do you guys think? Too creepy. Yeah, that's a little creepy, but I don't know, Janet. Remember my theory, or kind of our theory, but my theory about Eric being a walker skin, a Whisperer skin mask? That would be awesome to happen on the show. But that came and went. The time jump happened, and I don't think they're ever going to get back to that. But it's like, man, they missed an opportunity there for sure. And I think they've missed out opportunities, here and there. And I think they could have done a little better job with it in season 7, season 8 on there too. So Podrick, I don't really play Call of Duty. I don't really play too many video games. I'm trying to get to rent Days Gone, but I don't have the time to play it. When I have enough time, maybe Memorial Day weekend, I'll be able to play a little Days Gone because I want to get the 3-day rental and really play a lot of it to see how it is and how it is, because I'm not about to be buying video games nowadays too. They're too expensive for video games that are crap, too short, not worth it, because I've been burned in the past and I've learned from those mistakes for sure. John Rod, what's up, Brian? This live stream, baby. We're here doing it live stream. Hopefully the connection's going all right. I know it's hit or miss with the storm going by, but hopefully it'll be all right. If Darlene's still here, is it raining there, Darlene, in Sonoy? If she's still in there. Mark Simmons, Q&A, Bri, Lucille. I guess that's a question mark about where is Lucille? What's up with Lucille? I personally think that Lucille is at Alexandria somewhere, and that someone is going to be giving Lucille to Negan in an epic way during the Whisperer War, because there's no way that you could leave Lucille out in the woods like that, because Lucille is a symbol. And if one of the saviors left the sanctuary and got that, there could have been an uprising against everybody too. And Lucille is a symbol. And if they have Lucille, they can show that too. So pretty cool. I don't know. So Darlene's in Noonan. That's kind of right outside Sonoy. I've been there. It's a nice little town. Maybe you get to see some other stuff going around. But it's not raining in Georgia right now. We're in Noonan at least. So hopefully they'll be all right and they'll be set for tomorrow with filming. The first day of filming is tomorrow. And I really like filming season. I think it's cool because we can speculate, think, discuss, theorize what could happen. This house, what does it mean? The bridge, what does it mean? And they come around and they're seen in the first half, second half of season 9, and so forth. So we'll get to see who's around. Michael Cutlitz will be being a director, so he'll be around town in a couple weeks. I think he's filming episode 2 is the word, that he'll be around there too. So people be like, Abraham's back, he's back. Well, he's a director and he should be back directing episode 2. And I did think he did a good job of episode, was it 906, I believe? 906 or 907 was his episode. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he did a good job. They were both good episodes, for sure. So Gary Page, Q&A. They are going to get some bad deaths courtesy of Cersei. How do you want to see her die? How do I want Cersei to go out? I don't know. That's a good question. I would love for Bronn to use the crossbow on her. He takes the gold and leaves, and everybody's safe. But I don't know what's going to happen with Cersei, how she's going to go out. She's got to get taken out, though, right? I mean, come on. We got to have that. We got to have Cersei get taken out, the Hound versus the Mountain. And I want to know what happens with Jaime, Cersei, Bronn, and Tyrion. So I don't know. We're going to get answers for that. Probably episode 808. Yeah, I guess 805. Not this week. Next week probably will be what it is. M King's in the house. But I'm excited to find out. You know, I think episode 803 was good. I thought episode 802 was good. But after I watched episode 803 again, I could see why people were saying it's dark, because it is. Now, do you see everything? Yeah, you really do. You would have to really be a really poor lit TV. You kind of get the gist of it, but there's times where you're like, man, I don't really see what's going on. They could have just made it a little bit brighter. I mean, instead of it being, 0 brightness, you could have put a 5 brightness scale, or something in there, brighten up a little bit. That's all, So, M King's in the house, giving a shout out to everybody. Thank you guys for joining me here too. So Marie Antoinette's Cake. That's a great name, Marie Antoinette's Cake. I think Cersei will kill Dany and her dragons. I just have a bad feeling in my gut. Or is that Thai curry I ate? Well, I don't know if it's the Thai curry you ate, but it could be. But I just feel like the dragons are going to get taken out one way or another, It just has to happen. Because the dragons, how could you survive with the dragons? And I guess Dany wins. If the dragons win, Dany wins. And I just don't see it having a happy ending like that, too. Like, Dany's on the Iron Throne, and life is great, and it's good, and everything's good. I just don't see it happens, too. So, the fence, do you think Cersei will find a way to kill the remaining dragons? I think so. I think Qyburn had the right idea with the Scorpion, and I think they're going to have some way, or maybe they bust out the horn, or maybe the dragons live, and the Golden Company jumps ship to Dany's side instead of Cersei's side, because the whole Targaryen thing. So we'll see. Can't wait to find out, Xmas Girl 304 Q&A. Do you have a theory on the Walker that would change everything on Fear? Do you think there will be a time jump on Fear to connect with The Walking Dead? 2 great questions. I think that the idea of the Walker changing everything on Fear is, I don't know. My theory is that it's just a radioactive walker, and there's a whole thing with environment that the walkers are something. I don't know. That's because there's so many different things. Is it a cure walker? Is a walker bee that was cured? Is it someone that's half human, half walker? Is it, something to do with, I don't even know what they would do. How can the universe get any bigger? Because I don't think the cure aspect gets put on the show. I don't think Kirkman wants to have that. I don't know if it's the idea that someone is working on a cure and they worked on it and they fixed somebody. I just don't know what it could be with that. And then do you think there will be a time jump? I think there's a time jump eventually, because I think that Fear has to eventually connect with The Walking Dead. Because how can Fear end and The Walking Dead end and it doesn't come back around full circle, everything gets a return, where Morgan brings everybody back? I just think that's the way the end game for Fear. I just don't know how that ends, right? It just doesn't make sense. So, Gary Page, yes, Ghost is alive. Ghost is alive. Rhaegal is alive, and so is Drogon. So, Dany's dragon, Jon's dragon, and Ghost are all alive. They will be seen in tonight's episode for sure. So, do you think tonight's episode will be a slower pace setup for episode, which is supposed to be a sick battle? I think R. Paras 34. I think it's going to be a little slower. We had a big battle, a little more story. I think it's going to be Dany, Sansa, Arya, Jon, where to go, Davos, the north or the south. What are they supposed to do? Where they're going to go? What's going to happen with Jaime now? The battle is over against Night King and the dead, right? Where does Jaime go? Does Jaime go back? I don't know. It's a big question. I think so too. So, yeah, M King, the green dragon is okay. What happens with Euron, right? Exactly. I think he hightails it out and goes back to the Iron Islands, and then hopefully Yara takes him out. That would be pretty awesome. I would love to see that, because Euron's got to go, right? I mean, he can't be around. Brian Q&A, do you think Kelly will be killed? I think she will, and her death will serve to further bond Daryl and Connie. I think she'll turn to him for comfort. This is my prediction. I think so. I personally thought Kelly and or Luke would be in the Pike lineup, but that didn't happen. So I think Kelly and Connie are going to have some sort of thing that builds for the future. And I think Connie is a little better for the show than Kelly is. Personally, I think Luke is really good. I would personally love to see Connie, Luke, Magna, and Yumiko going forward. And if they got to kill one of them, I'm sorry, Kelly. I love you. But I think Kelly would be the weakest link out of all 5 of those people. Because Magna and Yumiko are badass chicks for the future of the show. You got to keep them around, right? Especially with Michonne on her way out. Luke's the comic relief. You got to have that. You got to have comedy in whatever you do. Whether it's a scary movie, a horror, a comedy, action, you got to have some comedic, funny parts. It's just the best way thing, in my opinion. And I think Connie's connected with Daryl, but maybe Daryl loses Connie. I don't think anyone is safe except for Daryl, Carol, and however long Michonne is. My question to you is, do you think Maggie comes back and she's welcomed with open arms? She has a problem with Negan being around. She comes to save the day. How do you think Maggie comes back around? And is it a good thing if she comes back around? I would think it's a good thing. But, she has a problem with Negan. When she left, she has a problem with Michonne. So if that's kind of what happens there, it's interesting too. So, Grape Tomato Girl, howdy from Ranchero Penasquitos, San Diego, California. Glad you can make it. Awesome. I'm glad everybody can make it as well, too. I'm hoping everybody can be here for me. I think I'm here next Sunday, and then the following Sunday, I won't be able to be here because I will be doing something in South Florida, and then I'll be back, for those, and I'll be able to have more live streams, especially when Fear the Walking Dead is going on. Do you guys like Fear? Do you watch Fear the Walking Dead? Because I think it's a good show for the summer. It's not a great show, in my opinion, but it's a good show for the summer to buy the times. I like Animal Kingdom on TNT. If you're not watching that, I definitely recommend it. It's a good show on TNT. It's a little crazy. It's a little much, but it's one of those fun shows that you can just... It's a kind of an action show, too. So Animal Kingdom is the show on TNT that I recommend. Mark Simmons, Q&A. Bri, how will the Whisperers know that their lands were traveled through? I don't know if they will. But maybe they'll see the dead walkers. I don't think they'll know that they went through the snow and the boundaries because the snow melted. But I would think that the walkers were killed. The frozen walkers were killed, and they did that. I think that's how they would know, is the walkers that everybody killed by the lake and the water and the stuff there too. So I would think that is going there too. So M. King playing Days Gone. Very cool. I have not had a chance to play it, but I've heard good things and bad things, and that it's got some glitches and stuff. But overall, I've heard Days Gone is a very good game. Janet again. Janet, do you think Gage will be killed? He's got to go, right? He's a punk. I don't know. Yeah, Gage is not my favorite. I actually liked Addie. I thought she was cool. But Gage is the lone kid from Alexander or Hilltop, and we'll see what happens with him. And it's kind of funny that the boy and the girl that saw Gregory got killed, but Gage did not come out. So that was kind of interesting, right? But we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what happens going forward with Fear, with The Walking Dead, with the spinoff news too. Hopefully we'll get some spinoff news about they're calling it right now Walking Dead 3 because they don't have an official name for it. And I know they're supposed to start filming probably, I would assume, well, I don't know when they're going to start filming, but they're going to start having more and more news come out, and I'm thinking that it's the 2020 summer show because it's not going to be on the same time as The Walking Dead. But what does that mean for Fear the Walking Dead if we're getting another show like that? So, Q&A, how do you think Maggie will come back? I think she comes back and saves the day with Georgie and people. That would be pretty cool if she brought a new character or two with her that was kind of a badass fighter or something too. They got some gun power and some firepower and some bullets and some stuff there too. And get Eugene making some bullets, man. We got to do it. So, Curse of the Walking Dead. Yeah, that's funny. The Silent Flute. How do you think Maggie will come back? Oh, I just answered that. Sorry. Xmas Girl. Why do you think they haven't asked Lydia what the Whisperers do at certain times? Example, snow and cold. She should have known that they migrate. That's for sure. She should know. She should do this in there too. I think it's a plot hole. I think it's like, hey, you got an inside source here, Lydia. Well, let's get some more information about her, about these crazy whispers, right? I don't know. It's one of those things you're like, okay, use the sources, guys. Use the people around you. Talk to everything. It's always like a guessing game, and we don't see everybody talk about every information on there too. We don't get to see everything in between. We didn't see what they did for 6 years. We didn't see how everything happened there. And did Father Gabriel talk about Jadis in the helicopter? I don't think so. I don't know, right? So that's right. Right, Janice, exactly. Why do you think Gabriel hasn't mentioned the helicopter to anyone? That's a great question. I don't know. Has he? Has he not? We haven't seen it, but I don't think so. I don't think he has because we haven't seen it. But I think that's the driving force, one of the driving forces for him to reach out on the radio. And that would be kind of full circle if Jadis is on the radio. Because that makes sense, right? Jadis, radio, leaves, looking for sanctuary. And have something there too. Excuse me. Rob Young Hands. Who kills Alpha? Negan, Carol, both. What if it's neither? What if it's Lydia? I don't know. We don't know. There's no way to tell. I mean, we're not going to find out that information until the episode airs, which I don't know if Negan actually goes to become a Whisperer. Do you want to see that? Do you want to see Negan be a Whisperer? Do you think that should happen? I would personally love it if Lydia did it or Carol because of what Alpha did to Carol's Henry. It just makes sense. But I don't know what the show is going to deviate from the comic and how they're going to do things. And the whole thing with the meaty story for Michonne, because that throws a wrench in there too. I just really hope that the Whisperer War is way better than All Out War. That's just all I can hope for. Because All Out War was definitely All Out bore. It wasn't the most boring thing, but it just wasn't really good in my opinion too. So, Xmas Girl, who do you want it to be on the radio? I mean, if they want to do that, that's... If they want to connect the movies, it's got to be Jadis. If we want to connect the comics, it's got to be Stephanie. So I'm open to whatever they want to do as long as it leads into a storyline. But who would you want it to be on the radio? Stephanie, Maggie, Georgie, Jadis, somebody else? I don't know. It's crazy. Gary Page, I think the guns are there. I don't know if they have a lot of bullets. We need Eugene. We need Mean Gene to be getting them bullets made in the factory. Get it rolling for the war. Come on, Gene. Let's do it. So hopefully you guys are making it until October. Hopefully you guys are watching Game of Thrones because it's been pretty good. We got 3 final episodes of that. It'll be done in May. Then we got Memorial Day weekend. And then we got Fear the Walking Dead. All summer there, and then I'll be back October. We don't know exactly when it'll be October. We really got to make it till July, guys. You know, July is when we have Comic-Con. That'll probably be the Friday of Comic-Con for the Walking Dead panel, and I'm hoping that we get an awesome trailer. Sometimes the trailers are really good, and the seasons kind of sucked, and sometimes the trailers are okay, and the seasons have been great. Back in the day, other seasons, so it's just one of those things. Hopefully we get the idea of having it being everything connected. Everything comes around, building for the future. I don't know if season 10, I doubt season 10 is the final season. Because if Norman Reedus and Carol, Melissa McBride, they signed on for 3 years, this is the first year of their 3-year deal. So you would probably get season 11, which would be the second year, and season 12 is the third year for that, unless they do an 11th season, and the movies are what Carol and Daryl and whoever go into. But I would assume we're going to get a couple more seasons of it. I don't want it to be too watered down, though. I don't want it to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. And then it's like, what are we watching here? This is a far different show than when it started to where it was. And yes, things should change, but the general formula should be a certain way. The certain formula should be there. Without Rick, it takes a big hit. Without Michonne, it takes a big hit. Without Carl, it takes a big hit. But Judith, I think, can make up for the Carl aspect. I don't know who can make up for Rick, because Daryl is great, but Daryl is not Rick. Daryl is Daryl. Aaron can make up for Jesus a little bit, especially if they turn him into a fighter. But Michonne is Michonne. That's my girl. I don't know if you can really have a character turn over that much from Michonne, but I don't know. I just think the show can be great. Good. Hopefully it's never bad. Hopefully it can be good, if not great, and connect. And maybe they take a year off, regroup, and get stuff together, and then come there too. So Kimberly read today where there will be 12 seasons of The Walking Dead. So hopefully that happens. I mean, a lot of people are saying this theory and that theory and this news and that news and this thing, and that the executives at AMC are saying they're at the infancy of The Walking Dead. Well, 10 seasons is a long time. That is a good run for any type of show. 9 seasons completed on the 10th season. That's a great run for any type of thing too. And it's one of those things that we should be grateful. And I'm very grateful for The Walking Dead. It's changed my life, changed my outlook, changed my view, changed my ability to what I want to do in life and where I want to be and how I want to be on YouTube and writing my own zombie apocalypse story that, I think would be a nice thing to be eventually on television or the big screen or little screen or the streaming screen, whatever, however it would be. I think it would be pretty awesome for it. I'm writing book 10. Well, I'm finishing book 10 as we speak. I got 3 chapters left to edit, draft, complete, and then my wife's going to read it, and then I'm going to go through it one more time, and then it'll be out. October. Book 10, Ghosts. I put the picture up on Facebook of the front cover, and I'm still working on the back cover and stuff there too, but it should be pretty awesome. And hopefully you guys check out the book series. My book series is titled Fight for Us. Fight, the number 4 us. You can see the sticker right over there. It's one of those things that is just the zombie apocalypse genre of myself, my friends, my family, loosely based, of course, that if you like the zombie apocalypse genre, if you like Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Zombie, World War Z, Zombieland, The Walking Dead, of course, anything of that line, you should be pretty awesome. So, yeah, John Rod, write that. Fight for Us, but it's actually the number 4 instead of FOR, the word 4, because there's basically, Ryan and his 4 friends type of deal. So that's why it's the 4. And it also means a couple different meanings on there too. Hopefully you check out the series and you can see it. So, Xmas Girl, what do you think of Ross Marquand's comments on the show running as long as Star Trek? Well, that was said, the Star Trek comment was actually said by Gimple or another executive there. I think it was actually Scott Gimple who said they want to have The Walking Dead be like Star Trek. Go for a bunch of years, take a break, come back for a bunch of years, make some movies, come back. And now they're on Star Trek Discovery. That's Sonequa Martin Green's on, but I don't even know when Star Trek originally started. 60s, 70s, whenever. I remember Star Trek The Next Generation with Captain Picard and stuff in the 90s. You know, and then there's that, and then there's all these different things of Star Trek. So the movies, then the rebooted movies, and I don't know. It's interesting because I actually watched the movie The Predator last night on HBO. It debuted there too, and one of the actors that's in it is Thomas Jane. And every time I see Thomas Jane now, I recognize him from The Punisher, that I actually met him when he was filming The Punisher here in Tampa Bay. The Punisher, that crazy like Sea movie or whatever it was, and then The Mist, of course. But Thomas Jane actually was basically given the role of Rick Grimes, but he turned it down. It's kind of crazy, right? So he actually turned it down to go do Hung on HBO. That show got canceled. The Walking Dead's still going today. You know, I think it's a big mistake there too. So Hard Mix was the 60s, huh? 60s is the start of Star Trek for sure. So I'm thinking that it should be a long time for The Walking Dead can hopefully go on for a long time. So yeah, I don't know if The Walking Dead will outlive us, but I don't know for that. But maybe some people for sure. Amelia got the first book from your series, planning to start reading it soon. Thank you, Amelia. Very cool. And that's my first book. I love it. But my favorite book, my most recent book, is book 9, Settlement. And that's actually my favorite book of the entire series. Books 3 and 4 were definitely my favorite. And then book 9, my most recent book that's out there, some big stuff happened too. So, The Fence. Who do you think will die in tonight's episode of Game of Thrones? I don't really think anybody would die. After the episode there, I think big stuff happens in episode 5. Just like the first 2 episodes, nobody really died. I don't think anybody dies here in episode 4. I think episode 5 is the big episode where we lose some people. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully the stream is doing okay. I don't know. The storm seems to have died down a lot. Hopefully the connection is going all right. It seems okay from our level here. It says video output low on YouTube, but I don't know if it's going to be all right. So I'm just going to keep it going as we're rolling. I've still got a connection. So hopefully you guys can, support the channel, be a part of it. Super chat, live chat every time, top chat, Patreon, checking out the book series. All that stuff comes back to the channel to keep us going for a long time, to come back for it, it's there for sure. So, when Stranger Things come out, no spoilers, I'm on season 1. So your boy Odom, Stranger Things comes out in July. I actually like the first season of Stranger Things better than season 2. Myself, I think that season 1 was kind of what they had to do to start up, and season 2 was just definitely a lot different there as well. So Josh Jackson, hey. I feel like it was Krusty. Hey, kids. Janet Person, Q&A, Brian, do you think Negan has redeemed himself enough to be released from his jail cell? I think so. I don't really want to see Negan in his jail cell. I don't want to see that anymore. We saw it for a whole season, basically. He was there for season 9. And I think he's there. He's proven himself enough to take care of Judith and to protect people. But I don't know. Maybe they let him out. So what if they let him out? Does he go to the Whispers? Does he run to the Whispers now too? That'd be kind of crazy. I don't know. So. Xmas Girl 304. If your books go audio, what celebrity would you like to voice them? I don't know. That'd be interesting. If we do audiobooks, I probably would actually do the audiobooks myself, because I don't think everybody knows how to say some of these names right. Like there's a couple characters that I don't want to give anything away, but it's not like Kate. It's actually Kat, but with a K. And there's a couple of new characters in there too that the names are kind of a little different. And without someone reading it correctly, I'll be there too. But if I had someone, the funny line would be Morgan Freeman to do my audiobooks. But he'd be like, and the zombie gets killed. Morgan Freeman's like, Andy. No, it'd be pretty funny if it was Morgan Freeman. No, I'm just joking, but I don't know. That'd be pretty awesome too. So, Grape Tomato Girl. You don't have to watch Game of Thrones for sure, but I recommend it. It's one of those series that it's a lot to take in initially. There's a lot of characters, a lot of names, a lot of crazy names, a lot of castles, a lot of communities, a lot of places, a lot of, different languages, a lot of different things there too. And it's a lot to take in, and a lot of stuff happens. But it's rewarding because you get to see characters, learn characters. And just when you're getting to learn characters, they add more characters. You're like, man, I can't win. And then by the second half of season 2, it starts to calm down a little bit. And I definitely think that season 2.5, 3, if you can get up to there, you'll really start to dig the series on there too. So if you can get HBO Go, HBO Now, HBO this, HBO Wow, you can get access to them, or you could buy the HBO series Game of Thrones, or you'd want to watch a couple things too before you get the feel of it, but start at the beginning, of course. Louis says Walking Dead is greater than Game of Thrones. I have to disagree on that. Game of Thrones is great. Walking Dead is great too. It's two different stories, two different realms, two different stories, two different networks, two different ways of things. But if Walking Dead was on HBO, it would be a far better series than it is too. I don't know if it would last 10 seasons, but I think that The Walking Dead would have more of a budget, more, they wouldn't have to worry about the ratings and certain things as much and whatever too. But I just think Game of Thrones is done in a way that it's rewarding. And we haven't had too many rewarding things on The Walking Dead like Game of Thrones. Now, Game of Thrones, we've lost people, of course, and same thing. But it's two different things. If you like the zombie genre, you'll like The Walking Dead better. If you like mystery, fantasy stuff on there too, Game of Thrones definitely has it there. Magic, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, two different things. I like them both for different reasons, but I do have to give the upper hand to Game of Thrones. How will Negan live within Alexandria if he is let out of his cell? Well, I don't know, because we'll have to see what they want to do. I think we're going to get a time jump of season 10 when it starts. I think Rosita will have her baby. I think it's going to be a boy. I think Avi Nash may have spilled the beans there too. I think they're going to have a boy. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to have the snow will be gone. Everything's going to happen there too. I think it's one of those situations that The Walking Dead is going to have to answer questions and have stuff ready for the future, but also not have any plot holes, because sometimes they do that, right? Sometimes we're like, well, what about this? So how come Father Gabriel has not told anyone about the helicopter, right? What do you think about the radio? Are we going to find out who's on the radio right away? Mid-season premiere, mid-season finale, episode 1008. How do you do that? 1008, 1009, So what do you think? I think the radio is kind of dealt with in the second half of season 10. I think that's a little more. I think the war, or unless they do that first and then the war kind of is in the mix of it, because I don't know when they want to start with the war, but I could see the war only being half a season, but they want to stretch things out. They want to make it a whole season for sure. But with Michonne being gone and, potentially stuff connecting or not, and what's going to happen with Daryl and Carol and Ezekiel and Beta and Alpha and Negan and Judith, I don't know. There's a lot of questions going forward with season 10. So, Grape Tomato Girl says, my sister's boyfriend looks a lot like Negan, and honestly, I'm constantly looking for Lucille when he's around. Does he like the show? He's like, who's Negan? Is he like, who's Negan, right? I don't know, right? So our daughter watches Game of Thrones. She keeps trying to get us to watch it. I think so. And there's a funny tweet that someone is watching Game of Thrones. Somewhere in the world, someone is watching Game of Thrones for the first time, episode 1, due to peer pressure. And it's one of those things like you're missing out if you're watching Game of Thrones. And you kind of are, though. It's one of those things, too. I think a lot of people want to not miss out, but it's rewarding. It is a good show. They do a lot of good things. There's a lot of different characters that you don't have to like the main character. You can like Tormund or Brienne or Tyrion or Dany or Jon or Arya. There's a lot of different people to like, so it's a good thing for it. It's a little too much at times, but ultimately I think it's a great show, and it is rewarding. Sure. Do you think Daryl will die at the end of the series protecting Judith? I don't think... Daryl, you should know that question, Daryl Dixon. You asked it. Daryl Dixon asked, do you think Daryl will die at the end of the series protecting Judith? I don't think so. I think Judith at the end of the series will be able to protect herself. And if they ever want to reboot it, it can be Judith actually being the lead of the series. And you don't want to kill Judith off. You don't want to kill Daryl off. You don't want to kill certain characters off. You know? Like, if anybody watches Rocky, the Rocky movies, Sylvester Stallone wrote a lot of the Rocky movies. And he is still a big part of that series and the Creed movies and all that stuff too. But Rocky V is arguably the worst movie of the series. And it was because the story, they didn't know how to end it. At the end of the movie, they were depicting that Rocky was going to die. Rocky, Sylvester Stallone wrote it up, and then the executives at MGM or Lionsgate or Universal, I forget who was actually making those movies at the time, said, Rocky doesn't die. The main people don't die. So then they had to change it and do this, and it was kind of, they weren't really sure how to really end the series, because going forward, luckily they didn't, because he made Rocky Balboa and Creed 1, Creed 2, and it's one of those things that it's like, if Rocky wasn't around, how could it continue? So can you really kill off certain characters? For sure, but if you want to continue the genre and the show, you can't. If you kill off Daryl, you can't really progress the show too much, because Daryl does everything. Daryl has rocket launchers and a motorcycle and a crossbow and a knife and, all these different things. And he's shooting guns and he's protecting Rick and he's saving Rick and he's there for this and he's there for Carol. He's so connected. If you kill off Daryl, you just can't continue on and have that big thing. So if they don't want to ever have it, that's the big thing to do. Rick Grimes is the main part of the show too, but he's connected in the universe one way or another. But I don't know if the show can lose any more big characters. I mean, we're going to lose Michonne, but can the show really survive that well after Michonne leaves? We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's one of those things that I'm going to continue to watch forever. And I know probably everybody in here is going to watch forever and ever. So for sure. But I know that I'm excited for filming season to start tomorrow. And I know some people are going to be there around town. I don't know any word. I know the Spoiling Dead fans will be having more and more information there too. I know they're filming a couple other things in Georgia. I know Steve Carell was actually seen in Rome, Georgia, or around Rome, Georgia. He's filming a movie there too. And he had a hat on, he's got a beard, and he had glasses on. He looks kind of different, but you can kind of tell it's Steve Carell. So you never know who you're going to see in Georgia. They film a lot of shows, a lot of movies, a lot of things there too. And the Marvel movies are kind of taking a break now from filming because of Endgame, and they're going on for phase 4 starting next year most likely. But they film a lot of those movies there too. They film some of the Fast and Furious movies there, so you never know who's going to be around town. And Georgia's where it's at because of the tax breaks for the movies and for the films and the shows. It's pretty great if you film enough there too. So it's kind of crazy too. Like if anybody watches the Bad Boys series, Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3 with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, Bad Boys 3, I believe, is supposed to take place in Miami, or at least the other 2 movies were in Miami, and maybe they're filmed here, but it was actually filmed in Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of it was filmed in Georgia, probably because of the tax breaks. Florida, I feel like, needs to step their game up and bring back the tax breaks, because they filmed a lot of movies here back in the day, and they haven't done that since the tax breaks have been gone. It's just kind of crazy, too. So we'll see what happens. Janet Person, Q&A, Brian, do you think Maggie will come back with news that Rick is alive? I don't know. That would be crazy. That would be crazy if Maggie actually connects the dots. But where has Maggie been all this time, too? Like, I don't even know how far she's been away. If it's been 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I don't think it's been all 6 years, but it's been some time that she's been away, too. And we haven't seen her, so it feels like she's been gone the entire time. It's just one of those things for sure. We'll see what happens with Maggie. But I don't know. I don't think Maggie connects the dots with Rick. I would assume that it comes over the radio. And where has Rick been? When are we going to get that answer, right? I think it'd be funny, but we'll see. Kang era Daryl. Some fear spoilers are out about Rick's group. So I've read some of those things, and I don't know, like Althea and this and that too. So we're going to say that Rick's group, or the fear group, is the one that connects with Rick's group on there too. It's a summer of speculation. We'll have to see what happens. So the spoilers, I'll have to read more about it. But, I'm excited for Game of Thrones tonight. Endgame was last weekend. Hopefully you guys have seen it. It's a really great movie. I think it's one of those that's the best comic book movie I've seen. I think it's up there. Endgame was great. Some people loved it. Some people think it was the best movie they've seen in a long time. I'm up there with that. I think it's great. But we'll see what happens. Once we get more information about The Walking Dead, filming, spoilers, potential spoilers, we'll be able to do that. Again, this is the summer of speculation. So there's going to be a lot of stuff, a lot of BS going around about Fear, Walking Dead, Season 10, movie stuff, third show, second spinoff of that, the Rick Grimes movies. There's going to be a lot of stuff going around. And some people may be asking the question, so then people think that it's actually confirmed stuff, but there's a lot of things going there too. Q&A, Brian, do you think Dwight will team up with Morgan, or will Dwight be the next villain? I would assume that Dwighty Boy is going to be teaming up with Morgan. Hopefully Dwighty Boy's a good guy. I don't think maybe he could be like the anti-hero. I don't think he'll be a hero, but I don't want him to be a villain either. I think he could be more of the anti-hero. So we'll see. Q&A, will Daryl ever get? We'll see if that happens, but I don't think so on the show, right? I don't know. Would you want to see Daryl with Carol, or Daryl with Connie, or Daryl with nobody? We'll see if it ever happens. But I think Daryl's idea is to be the lone wolf aspect there too. So Xmas Girl Q&A, have you got any info on what episode this season that Andrew Lincoln is supposed to direct? I see Sarah Wayne Kelly's directed an episode season 5. I don't know what the word is about Andrew Lincoln. I know that Michael Cutlass will be directing episode 2 or 3, but the early word is that it's episode 2 because he's supposed to be in town on in a couple weeks. May 16th and 17th, he was supposed to do a convention, and so that's gone. He can't go to that because he'll probably be dealing with the directing aspect of that too. So that's pretty interesting. But I don't know. I'm sure Andrew Lincoln will be seen around town, and I'm sure that there'll be pictures of him, especially when Norman Reedus is there, because they got a bromance beyond a bromance. They're like best buds on set, and it would probably be pretty cool if and when Andrew Lincoln comes back to direct. So the big thing I want to know is, when are they going to start filming the Rick Grimes movies? And where and when are they going to start filming that? If it's on set, at the studio, if they're going to use the woods, if they're going to use inside stuff, are they going to use, where is it supposed to take place? Pittsburgh, D.C., Ohio, across the pond? We'll have to see, but I'm excited. And that's kind of cool, We don't have to know everything right away. We can wait and deal with it. Theorize, discuss, talk about it, see what we got here and there, and just see what we can get, and just think, what do you think may happen on there too? So, but what do we got here for it, guys, too? So, I'm currently on season 5 of Game of Thrones. Is the Battle of the Bastards a good payoff? Kang era Daryl, yes, that is a great episode in season 6. It's one of the best for sure. The Battle of the Bastards is a great episode. So, I don't know I don't want to give too much away, but when you see those episodes and you see the latest stuff of season 8, you have to let me know, what do you think was better? The Battle of Winterfell, or well, I guess they're both the Battle of Winterfell, but they're different kind of battles. So we'll have to see. So what you got here? So thank you guys for joining me today. I'm glad the stream didn't get booted. I don't know what happened a couple weeks ago. That was ridiculous. So hopefully you guys have seen Endgame. You're watching Game of Thrones. You're excited for filming season. You're going to do this. We got some movies coming up this summer. You got Toy Story 4. We got Lion King. We got a bunch of things. A bunch of things happened over the summer. John Wick 3. If you've not seen the John Wick series, movie 1 and 2, they're definitely good. I like 1 a little better than 2. But John Wick, it's a nice story. It's a nice different kind of thing. John Wick is a cool, action-packed kind of movie series that is going to have a third movie coming out in 12 days, I believe. So I'm going to be checking it out. I'm excited for it. Daryl Dixon Q&A, do you think Negan will be around until the end of the show? Potentially. I think so. I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan likes playing Negan, and I don't think he would ever want to leave. But my question to you is do you want to see that? Would you want to see Negan be part of Alexandria, leading Alexandria? Because in the comic, they've kind of done a lot of that story already with Maggie. There's nothing left there between that unless they change it for the show. And Negan, that whole thing with Rick, that's not going to happen because that's not here in the show. Daryl would have to be that character most likely that Negan interacts with. And do you want to see that? I don't want to see Negan and Daryl be like best buddies. I want to see them have to deal with each other and they have acquaintances, and Negan saves Daryl and Daryl's got to deal with it. And there's the funny back and forth. Like Negan like kills a walker that's trying to get to Daryl, and Daryl's like, yeah, shut up, keep fighting, I don't care, keep doing, or whatever. It'd be funny if there was this funny thing between Daryl and Negan and they need each other and they have to survive with each other, and Daryl saves Negan and Negan saves Daryl and vice versa on there too. So we'll see what happens with it. But tonight, Game of Thrones, episode 804 is probably a building block for episode 805, which is the Big Daddy episode. Walking Dead filming starts tomorrow. Some people are already there. I'm excited to get some information from everybody. People are getting more pictures, and I know the cast is definitely around town. So once we find out more information, I will have it with you guys. Once I find information, I share it with you. Fear the Walking Dead comic stuff on there too. Hope you guys have read the comic stuff. It's definitely pretty awesome. I'm excited for you guys to definitely check out the comics if you haven't. You can get them online a little bit. There's places you can read them. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool to see what they want to do and what they change. Star Wars, Gary Page says, Star Wars, the final movie,